Envision standing on a windswept cliff, the salty air thick with the scent of the sea. Below, the waves crash violently against the jagged rocks, sending white foam spraying into the air. The sky is overcast, the horizon blending seamlessly into the vast, restless ocean. There's something about the way the water moves, dark, deep, full of secrets. You can't shake the feeling that something is watching from beneath the surface. For centuries, the Irish have told stories of beings who live in those depths, creatures that belong to both the land and the sea, but never truly to either. They are beautiful, mysterious, and unpredictable. Some say they come to shore on calm nights, their hair dripping with seawater, their eyes shimmering like moonlight on the waves. Others claim they linger beneath the surface, collecting the souls of the drowned, keeping them locked away in glass jars. The Merrow are more than just the mermaids of old European legend. They are something stranger, something older. They are part of the sea itself, kind yet dangerous, gentle yet untamed. Those who have seen them speak of longing in their voices, an ache that can never quite be silenced. Sailors feared them, yet some fell hopelessly in love with them. Fishermen whispered of them when the tide pulled unusually strong. And even now, if you stand too close to the shore and listen to the wind, you might just hear the faintest echo of their song. This is the story of the Merrow, the mermaids of Celtic and Irish folklore. Let's take a step back, to a time when the sea was more than just a vast stretch of water, but a place of wonder, danger, and whispers of things unseen. The Merrow, known in Irish as Murúsh, or sea changelings, were among the most mysterious beings said to call the ocean home. Unlike the mermaids of later European legends, the Merrow were uniquely tied to Irish folklore, appearing in ancient tales passed down along the storm-beaten coasts. The origins of these mysterious sea dwellers are uncertain, their presence in Irish folklore stretching back to ancient times. Some claim they are the children of Manannán mac Lir, the powerful sea god who commands the tides and guides souls to the otherworld. If true, it would explain their ability to move effortlessly between the ocean's depths and the world above, existing in a space between realms. Others whisper that the Merrow were once human, people who were cursed or enchanted, forever bound to the sea but never truly belonging to it. Unlike the monstrous beings that lurk beneath the waves, the Merrow are often described as ethereal and captivating, yet their very existence is a reminder that the sea is not to be trusted. The earliest stories of the Merrow likely emerged from the deep-rooted fear and reverence the Irish had for the ocean. The sea was both a provider and a destroyer, offering fish and safe passage one moment, swallowing entire ships the next. For those who spent their lives at the mercy of the waves, the idea that something ancient and conscious lived beneath them was more than just a story. It was a warning. Some believed the Merrow were guardians of the deep, watching over the waters and the souls claimed by them. Others saw them as spirits of the sea itself, beings who could be benevolent or cruel depending on their whims. The truth, as with most legends, remains elusive. But where do the Merrow go when they disappear beneath the waves? What lies in the world they call home? Beneath the crashing surf and shifting tides lies a kingdom that few mortals have ever glimpsed, the underwater realm of the Merrow. Unlike the human villages that cling to the rocky shores, this hidden world is vast, filled with beauty and danger in equal measure. Legends describe the Merrow's kingdom as a shimmering expanse of coral towers and glowing caverns, illuminated by strange, pulsating lights that move like the heartbeat of the ocean itself. Unlike the dark and crushing depths where monstrous things lurk, the home of the Merrow is said to be alive with movement and color. Fields of swaying seagrass stretch like meadows, and delicate creatures flit between pillars of coral that grow like trees from the ocean floor. Their dwellings are not built from stone and wood, but from the bones of ancient shipwrecks, pearls the size of a man's fist, and glass-like shells that shimmer in the dim light. Music is said to fill the halls of their world, but not in the way it does on land. Beneath the sea, sound moves differently. It hums through the water, vibrating in ways that make it feel almost alive. Some say the ocean itself sings with them, carrying their voices far beyond their hidden realm, letting their melodies reach the ears of those who listen closely enough on quiet nights. Some legends speak of a king or queen seated upon a throne, carved from the spine of a massive sea beast, their crown woven from seaweed and encrusted with pearls. These rulers vary in the stories. Some are wise and just, guiding their people with care. Others are cruel and possessive, hoarding treasures from sunken ships and delighting in the capture of sailors who have wandered too far from shore. Their kingdom does not follow the rules of the human world. Time moves differently beneath the sea, and a mortal who finds themselves in the presence of the Merrow's court might spend what feels like hours among them, only to return to the surface and find that decades have passed. And the Merrow are not alone in their world. The sea is home to creatures older than memory, beings that slumber in the depths, waiting for the right moment to rise again. Some say the Merrow act as guardians, warning sailors away from the places where these ancient things rest. Others believe the Merrow hold power over the beasts of the deep, summoning great whales to drag ships beneath the surface, or calling upon creatures that no human has ever seen to do their bidding. One thing remains clear: the Merrow are more than mere myths. For centuries, their stories have been passed down, spoken in hushed voices on stormy nights, whispered over the roar of the waves by those who have seen something they cannot explain. They are part of the sea, as restless and untamed as the water itself. And for those who have ever glimpsed their hidden world, there is one truth that lingers long after they return to land. The ocean is far more alive than anyone could ever understand. The Merrow were unlike anything else in Irish folklore. Though often compared to mermaids, their appearance and the way they were perceived set them apart. They were neither fully of the sea nor fully of the land, and that strangeness was reflected in how they looked. Female Merrow were said to be breathtakingly beautiful, with long flowing hair the color of seaweed, sometimes deep green, sometimes golden like sunlight on the waves. Their skin was pale, almost translucent, giving them an eerie, otherworldly glow, especially under the moonlight. Their eyes were large and luminous, shimmering like the ocean itself, filled with something both enchanting and unreadable. They were often adorned with the treasures of the sea, shells braided into their hair, pearls draped around their necks, and gowns made of gossamer thin sea silk that shimmered in the light. Everything about them seemed designed to lure the human eye, making it impossible to look away. But for all their beauty, there was always something just a little unsettling about them, a sense that they weren't quite of this world. Their voices, too, were said to be hypnotic, carrying the hush of the tide or the distant call of waves crashing against the cliffs. Male Merrow, on the other hand, were a different story entirely. Unlike their graceful female counterparts, they were often described as grotesque, with features that were more fish than man. Some tales speak of them having gills along their necks, webbed fingers, and long pointed teeth, more suited for tearing than speaking. Their hair was said to be wild and tangled, their eyes dark and unreadable. It was for this reason that male Merrow were rarely seen by humans. They preferred the depths, the hidden places beneath the waves, where they ruled over their kind and guarded the treasures of the ocean. It was said that the female Merrow were drawn to human men precisely because they found them more appealing than their own kind. One of the most important traits of the Merrow was their Cohulian druith, a red feathered cap or a sea green cloak, depending on the version of the tale. This enchanted garment was the key to their power. Without it, they could not return to the water. If it was lost or stolen, they would be trapped on land, unable to find their way back to the sea. There was one final strange detail about the Merrow: they smelled of the sea. Not in an unpleasant way, but in the way the air changes before a storm, or the way the shore carries the scent of salt and mystery. For those who encountered them, this was always the first sign that something otherworldly was near. The scent of the tide, the sudden hush of the wind, and the feeling that the sea itself was watching, waiting. Because for all their beauty and charm, the Merrow belonged to the water, and no matter how long they lingered on land, the sea would always call them home. Hey everyone, just a quick intermission here. I wanted to say thank you for watching this video. It really means a lot to me. Did you know that over 80% of you who are watching right now aren't subscribed to the channel? If you've enjoyed this content so far, it would be incredible if you could hit that subscribe button. It's a small gesture, but it really helps the channel grow and ensures that you won't miss any more of our fascinating stories we explore together. Also, if you're feeling generous, please give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment, and share with anyone else who may enjoy it. Your support really does make a difference and keeps the content coming. Thanks again, and let's get back to the story. The Merrow were unlike most supernatural beings tied to the sea. Where other creatures, like the sirens of later folklore, were known for luring sailors to their deaths, the Merrow existed in a much more complicated space. They were not malevolent spirits, nor were they entirely benevolent. They were neither monsters nor saints, but something in between, caught between two worlds, between kindness and danger, between curiosity and sorrow. There are tales, dark, unsettling ones, that speak of the Merrow's connection to the dead. Some say they do not simply live in the ocean, they rule over the spirits taken by it. These lost souls, known as soulless, are said to glow like dim lanterns, drifting through the halls of the Merrow cities. Some believe the Merrow act as caretakers for these spirits, watching over them until they are ready to pass into the other world. Others claim the soulless are prisoners, trapped in enchanted jars or sea glass cages, collected by the Merrow like treasures from the drowned. There are even whispers that human divers who venture too deep might hear the voices of these lost souls, calling out from beneath the waves, distorted, distant, and filled with longing. The connection to the dead aside, the Merrow were often considered gentle. Many stories describe them guiding lost sailors home, calming rough waters for fishermen, and even warning of impending storms or shipwrecks. Some tales claim that Merrow could be seen standing along the cliffs, watching the horizon with a mournful expression, as though grieving for something lost beneath the waves. Others describe them singing haunting melodies near the shore, songs so filled with longing and sadness that their meanings remained impossible to decipher. This sorrow, this quiet acceptance of loss, seemed to be part of what made the Merrow different from other sea beings. Unlike land-dwelling fae, who often played cruel tricks on mortals, the Merrow did not simply exist in the ocean. They felt its grief, carried its stories, and lived in its endless, unbreakable cycles. But for all their connection to the sea, there was something about the human world that fascinated them. Whether it was the warmth of firelight flickering in a village at night, the sound of music rising into the sky, or the fleeting nature of mortal lives, the Merrow found themselves drawn to the shore. Many legends speak of fishermen glimpsing beautiful women with sea-green hair combing their locks along the rocks, their skin pale and shimmering in the moonlight. Others tell of strange figures standing ankle-deep in the water, watching ships come and go as if trying to decide whether to step forward or disappear beneath the waves forever. Some Merrow were content to remain spectators, but others were not. The most well-known tales of Merrow-human relationships begin with a single act of theft, the taking of the Koh-Hulin Druith. Without it, they were stranded on land, unable to return to the waters that had always been their home. Fishermen who discovered these cloaks often hid them away, knowing that as long as the Merrow could not find their lost item, they would remain among humans. What followed was a familiar pattern. The Merrow, unable to leave, would settle into mortal life, marry their captor, and bear children. For a time, it seemed as though they had truly become human. They lived, they loved, they raised families. Yet something always pulled at them, something silent, something unseen. Inevitably, the Merrow would find their hidden cap or cloak, and the moment they did, it was over. They would not hesitate. The sea was not merely home, it was part of them. No matter how many years had passed, no matter how much they had loved their mortal family, they would slip into the water and never return. The fishermen who had once thought they had won the heart of a sea maiden were left standing on the shore, watching as the mother of their children vanished beneath the waves, never to be seen again. But though the Merrow may have left their mortal families behind, their children carried something of the sea within them. The offspring of Merrow and mortals were said to be different from ordinary humans. Some were born with thin, webbed fingers, others with unusually keen senses, and many possessed a deep, almost unnatural longing for the ocean, even if they had never seen it before. Legends say that the descendants of Merrow sometimes became gifted musicians, their songs holding a haunting beauty that could move even the hardest hearts to tears. There are whispers that certain coastal families carry traces of Merrow blood, their lineage marked by a love of the sea and a tendency toward sorrow that could never quite be explained. These individuals often had a restlessness in their souls, a quiet yearning that no amount of land-bound life could satisfy. Some took to the sea as sailors or fishermen, drawn to the ocean without ever knowing why. Others simply felt out of place, as though they belonged somewhere just beyond the reach of their own understanding. While Merrow rarely returned for their human lovers, there are whispers that they sometimes watched over their children, appearing in times of great distress or standing at the shore during storms, their eyes searching for something or someone they had left behind. For all the tenderness that could exist between humans and Merrow, their relationships were always doomed to end. Whether through trickery or genuine affection, whether brief or lasting for decades, the call of the sea was stronger than any love a mortal could offer. And so the stories of Merrow and their human lovers always end the same way, not with betrayal, nor even with true heartbreak, but with the quiet inevitability of the tide. The Merrow belonged to the water, and the water always reclaimed its own. The Merrow were not merely creatures of beauty and mystery, they possessed abilities that set them apart from both humans and other supernatural beings of the sea. Their powers were deeply tied to the ocean, reflecting its dual nature, calm and nurturing one moment, furious and destructive the next. They could control the tides, influence the weather, and communicate with the creatures of the deep. But their most defining magic was bound to a single enchanted object, the Kohulian Druith. The Kohulian Druith, as we mentioned before, was a red cap, a shimmering veil or a cloak of enchanted seaweed, which was the source of the Merrow's ability to move between land and sea. Without it, they were stranded, unable to return to the water's embrace. For this reason, it was both their greatest gift and their greatest vulnerability. Beyond their ability to navigate the ocean's depths, the Merrow were said to predict storms and sense danger long before it arrived. Sailors who encountered them took it as a warning. If a Merrow appeared near their boat or along the shoreline, it was often a sign that a storm was coming. Some were even said to summon the waves themselves, calling forth tempests that could shatter ships against the rocks. Whether this was done intentionally or simply as a reflection of their emotions was never clear. But their voices were perhaps their most dangerous weapon. The Merrow's song could lull sailors into a trance, drawing them toward the water with a melody both haunting and irresistible. Some say their songs were filled with sorrow, a reflection of the loneliness they carried from spending so much time between two worlds. Others believe that the song was a deliberate enchantment, a lure meant to steal away those who heard it. Despite these formidable powers, the Merrow were far from invincible. Their attachment to the sea was so strong that they struggled to stay away from it for long periods of time. Even those who chose to live on land often felt an unbearable longing, a constant pull toward the waves that never truly faded. Iron was also said to hold power over them, as it did with many supernatural creatures in Celtic folklore. Some believed that carrying a piece of iron, a nail, a coin, or even a horseshoe could protect against their magic. Others whispered that an iron lock placed on a Merrow's stolen cloak would prevent them from reclaiming it, ensuring they remained bound to the land. But in the end, the greatest weakness of the Merrow was the conflict within themselves. They were creatures of two worlds, drawn to the mystery of human life, yet forever belonging to the sea. Like with all stories, this too must come to an end. The Merrow were never meant to stay on land. They belonged to the water, to the shifting tides and the endless depths. No matter how many stories tell of them falling in love, settling into human lives, bearing children who carry the sea in their blood, it always ends the same. They find their way back. The ocean is their home, and it will always call for them. But their presence never truly disappears. Their stories live on in the lull of the waves, in the shimmer of the sea at dusk, in the unexplained longing some feel when they stand too close to the shore. Perhaps they are still out there, just beyond sight, singing their mournful songs beneath the water, slipping through the currents like ghosts of something forgotten. The Merrow were more than myth, more than fleeting legends passed down by sailors and fishermen. They were a reflection of something deeper, the call of the unknown, the pull of something just out of reach. And for those who listen closely, for those who dare to wonder, they are still waiting. Not gone, not lost, just beneath the waves where they've always been.